Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time again for everybody's favorite segment in the entire world. I'm sure there's millions of people tuned in right now for the 2023 NBA mock draft. I'm pretty sure 4.0. Now, this one's going to be a little bit different. I did a community poll on my channel, and y'all apparently want to see a full first round. So we're going to be going through a full first round. And if you have you watched my ones in the past, I'm going to be going over players a lot faster because we have 30 players to go through instead of like 13. So yeah, let's get right into it. So the first thing we're going to do is going to be spinning the wheel of Wembanyama, and it's going to be Detroit with the first overall pick, meaning that the Detroit Pistons are going to be getting blessed with the services of the baby giraffe himself in Wembanyama. Now, Wembanyama, I don't think I have to really address to why he's the number one overall pick. He can literally do anything on the court while being a 7'3" freak of nature, okay? The dude just doesn't make sense. He can shoot one-legged fadeaway threes, he can dunk on you, he can block your shot, he can guard the perimeter, he can literally do anything. It's not much of a debate who should go number one overall in this draft. And then with the second overall pick, we have the Houston Rockets going with Scoot Henderson. Now, Scoot Henderson, there's been a little bit of debate, should he be the second one? But in my opinion, he is the clear second option in this class. He has really improved his efficiencies in the G League this year. He showed that he can be an elite offensive player in the G League, and I think he would fit very well alongside Jalen Green and Jabari Smith. It would give them a big three going into the future, and it would just make their future look much, much brighter. And now third overall, we have the San Antonio Spurs going with Brandon Miller. No pun intended, he is a great shooter and one of the better shooters in this entire class, but he is much more than that. He can score from all three levels. He has great length, great size. He can play good defense. He literally does anything you want him to do, and I think he would fit perfectly with the San Antonio Spurs, and it would give them a young future of guys like Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson himself, Tyus Johnson. They can just use so many different things, and they have so many young guys on this roster. The Spurs' future would be looking extremely bright. And then on top of that, you would still have guys like Malachi Branham as probably the backup small forward if you added Brandon Miller and Jeremy Sochan, who's been a beast for them this year. So I think for sure if they were able to get Brandon Miller and have a starting lineup that resembled like Tyus Jones, Devin Vassell, Brandon Miller, Keldon Johnson, and then whoever they want to put at the center position, or if they want to go very small and start Malachi Branham somewhere, then they could have an extremely interesting team, and I think their future would be looking very, very bright. And now fourth overall, we have the Charlotte Hornets, and now I have them picking Nick Smith Jr., and I am much higher on Nick Smith Jr. than most probably. I have him as the second best guard in this entire class, and it's because he just has an absolute bag. He can score from anywhere on the court. He's a very solid playmaker, and his stats, although they don't look great for the full season, since he's returned from his injury, they looked much, much better in those games, and I just think overall Nick Smith Jr. is definitely a great piece for them, and he would be a perfect fit alongside LaMelo Ball, because Nick Smith Jr. is not the passer LaMelo is, but LaMelo's elite passing is just going to open the floor up even more for him, and he doesn't have to be the first option on that team, and I just think overall Nick Smith would be a great addition to this team and really finish out their backcourt and give them the backcourt going into the future that they really want. And moving on to the fifth overall pick, we have the Orlando Magic selecting Cam Whitmore. Now, although I don't think Cam Whitmore is the fifth best player in this class, I just think he fits literally perfect with this Orlando Magic team, as look what he does. He just fits perfectly, as you would put him at the power forward position, and immediately he would come in as an elite defender who doesn't need to score, but he can score when he needs to. He's going to be an energy guy, great defender from everywhere on the court, and you can make a starting five that looks a little something like this. You move Franz Wagner to the shooting guard position, you move Paolo to the shooting guard position, you move Franz Wagner to the small forward position, Wendell Carter Jr. stays at your 5, you keep Markelle Fultz as your starting point guard, and now you have Cam Whitmore at your 4. That team is going to be extremely scary, extremely versatile, and their defense is going to be extremely fun to watch whilst keeping the offense that Paolo and Franz gives you. So I think for sure that starting lineup would be extremely versatile and one of the most fun ones to watch, and it would give them by far one of the brightest futures in the entire NBA. And sixth overall, we have the Washington Wizards picking Azur Thompson. Now, I am one of the few that has Azur Thompson above Amen Thompson. I know I'm probably butchering his name, but I just think he is the better half of the Thompson twins, and I really think Washington needs to stop trying to be safe with their picks. We've seen them be safe. Johnny Davis hasn't worked out, although he's kind of put a few good games together towards the end of the year now that he's gotten a chance. But I mean, so he's kind of in the air, but like Denny Avangita's been average, Corey Kispert's been average, Rui is now off the team. Like, they just need to really spice things up and take a swing for the fences in the draft, and that's exactly what Azir Thompson's doing, as he has legitimate star potential at the guard position. He's a great defender, all around great scorer. He has a better three-point shot right now than his brother, and I think he's a very, very solid playmaker as well. He has all the tools you want, good athlete, so I just think for sure that Azir Thompson can legitimately be a great swing for the fences type pick for them, and it is exactly what the Washington Wizards need to do. And now 7th overall, I'm going with the Portland Trailblazers, selecting Taylor Hendricks. Now, Taylor Hendricks has a very, very high two-way potential in the NBA, and those two-way players are extremely valuable. He can play pretty much power forward or small forward if you want him to. He can score at all three levels of the floor, and like I said, he can also defend very well to go along with that. And I just think overall, you could do a lot of things. If you're Portland, you can either start him and Shadion Sharp together next year. You can have him backing up Shadion Sharp. You can start him over Jeremy Grant. There's just so many things that you can do, and I just think Taylor Hendricks would fit this team perfectly. And with 7th overall, you're getting extremely good value. And now 8th overall, we have the Indiana Pacers selecting Jarace Walker. Now, I am not as high on Jarace Walker as most people, but I still think he's going to be an extremely good player, and he's kind of like an Isaiah Stewart with a better offensive game, in my opinion, as he is an elite defender, just like Isaiah Stewart is, but I think his offensive game is a little bit more refined, and I think he would provide a very good starting level power forward with very good defense and offensive upside to go alongside some of the other young guys like Tyrese Halliburton on this roster and Benedict Mathurin, and they already have their scorers in Buddy Hield, Halliburton, Turner, Mathurin. They already have their scorers. Now there's time to get a defender, and that is exactly what Jarace Walker would provide for the Indiana Pacers. And now 9th overall, we have the Orlando Magic once again selecting in the lottery, and this one's going to be Amen Thompson. Now, the Orlando Magic, I don't think he's going to fall this far to them, but I do think he'd be a great pick for them, as Amen Thompson would give them an extremely high upside player that has great playmaking instincts. If he can just get his three-point shot a little bit better, by a little bit better, I mean a lot bit better, and he can just become a little bit better of a defender as well, he can legitimately be a star in this league. And if you get that, now you're going to have your point guard of the future in Amen Thompson to go along with another explosive athlete in Cam Whitmore, to go along with guys like Paolo, Franz, and Wendell as well. That team is going to be extremely scary going in the future if they all do develop as they should. And for the first pick in the double digits, we have the Toronto Raptors selecting Anthony Black. Now, Anthony Black is an extremely Josh Giddey-esque prospect. He is a 6'7" point guard, and he just has all the same skill sets Giddey had. He's a very smart passer, great size for a point guard, can handle the ball, he can shoot from everywhere, and I think he's even a little bit more athletic than Josh Giddey. So overall, I just think Toronto would be very beneficial to have a guy like him, mainly because he would be able to move Fred VanVleet back to his natural position as shooting guard, and you would have a guy that can get him the ball in the most optimal positions, and I think he would be really beneficial to put alongside Pascal and Scotty Barnes and all those type players. I just think Anthony Black would fit extremely well with this roster, and he's also an extremely talented defender to go along with all that, so I do think for sure the Toronto Raptors with the 10th overall pick would be getting a very good player in Anthony Black. And now for the 11th overall pick, we have the Utah Jazz selecting Cason Wallace. Now, Cason Wallace is a very Drew Holiday-like guy, and trust me, your favorite team wants a Drew Holiday-like guy on it, and Cason Wallace can just basically do anything you want, and I think he would fit extremely well with the Utah Jazz, and I mean, I think he would have a very good dynamic in the backcourt with Colin Sexton and the other guards like Jordan Clarkson and all of them, and then also I think Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen would love to play with a guy like him as well, so I just think overall Cason Wallace would fit with this Utah Jazz is trying to build going forward. And now 12th overall, we're going to go with the Oklahoma City Thunder selecting Keontae George. Now, this is another guy I'm not as high on as other people, and it's mainly because of how he scores. He's more of a spot-up shooter, but he is an extremely solid two-way player. He can make his own shot at times, and I think he's going to come into the NBA as more of a floor spacer 3-and-D type guy, and that would be very valuable for a team like the Thunder to have coming off your bench, because I don't think he's going to start for this team, especially when Chet Holmgren gets back, but I do see him being a very solid role player in the NBA, at least from the jump, and I think him in OKC would fit very well and would just add to that already extremely talented young core. And with 13th overall pick, we have the New Orleans Pelicans selecting Jordan Hawkins. Now, Jordan Hawkins is a very sneaky athletic shooting guard. He can score from all three levels of the floor. He's a very solid defender, very solid passer, and I just really like his game. He can score. He's an extremely talented offensive player. And I just think overall, any team would love to have a guy like him on it. And for a team like the Pelicans who desperately need like someone that can score by himself off their bench, Jordan Hawkins would be a perfect addition to this team. And now 14th overall, we have the Los Angeles Lakers selecting Gregory Jackson. Gregory Jackson isn't one of those guys who's going to wow you with his offensive talent, but he's going to work extremely hard. He has very good athleticism, very good size, and he has a lot of offensive potential as well to go alongside with that great defense he already provides. So I think overall, Gregory Jackson could be an elite player for the Lakers, and from day one, he can just be a high-effort defensive guy, and that is exactly what a team like the Lakers want, because they don't need him, a rookie, to come in scoring for them, because they already have guys like D'Lo, LeBron, Malik Beasley, Anthony Davis, all those type of players. You just want a guy to come in full effort and be able to provide solid minutes, and that is exactly what Gregory Jackson's going to be able to do for the Lakers. And now with the 15th overall pick, we have the New York Knicks selecting Kyle Filipkowski, and the reason I have them is because Mitchell Robinson did just put on his Instagram how he's not excited or happy with his current role with the team, and I think Filipkowski could pretty much replace him and not be even a better fit for them, because he is a much better floor spacer than Mitchell Robinson would ever be, while still providing that good length and rim protection that Mitchell Robinson can. Now, he's not the athlete by any means or has the strength that Mitchell Robinson has, but I think that floor spacing would make up for it, and they would be getting great value with the 15th overall pick in Kyle Filipkowski right here. And now the 16th overall pick, we have the Atlanta Hawks selecting Dariq Whitehead. Now, Dariq Whitehead, although I don't think he is as good as some people say he is, I think at the 16th overall pick would be great value for the Hawks, and he is a much needed kind of different pace guard. He's one of those guys that doesn't need the ball in his hand. He's an extremely good three-point shooter. He's very versatile, being 6'7", can pass the ball, can do a lot of things, and has a lot of potential if he develops how maybe he can and how he was projected to coming into his college career. And I think Dariq Whitehead would just be a great player for the Hawks, because the Hawks have a lot of guys that need the ball in their hand to dominate the game. They have to have the ball in the hand to impact winning, and that is not what Dariq Whitehead is. He's a guy that can just spot up, play his role, and just be an extremely solid player, and I think they would be a much needed change of pace for them. And now the 17th overall pick, we have the Utah Jazz once again selecting, and this time I have them picking Chris Murray out of Iowa. Chris Murray is a very, very solid guy. He can do basically everything you want. He can score at all three levels, and I really do like him. I think he's going to be an extremely good role player for them for the long term, and I think as a backup small forward or maybe even a starting level small forward, he could be extremely valuable for the Jazz going forward. And 18th overall, we have the Golden State Warriors selecting probably one of the most unfortunate names in NBA draft history in Grady Dick. Now, Grady Dick is an extremely good three-point shooter, maybe the best three-point shooter in this entire class, but he's more than that. He can score from all three levels. He can really dribble the ball better than your normal just three-point shooter. He's an extremely solid player, and he's also a little bit decent on defense, has good length, has a good build, and I think he would just fit extremely well in the Golden State Warriors system. And overall, I think any team would love to have a guy like Grady Dick who can just all around score while being an elite floor spacer, and I think you can definitely get that out of him, and I think the best for his potential and for his future would be for Golden State to draft him. And now 19th overall, we have the Houston Rockets selecting Colby Jones. Colby Jones is one of my favorite guards as well in this class. Now, I don't see him ever being a star or anything, but I definitely think he could be a great role player, as it's almost impossible to speed him up as a guard. He's going to take his time. He's not going to lose you any games, and he's going to be basically a young veteran on any team that picks him. He has great energy, can score from everywhere, can pass from everywhere. He's just an extremely solid player, and I think Houston Rockets would love to have him because it would be kind of a change of pace. You already have these high energy guys like Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, Tari Eason, and they just added Scoot Henderson. So I think for at least earlier in this draft, in this situation, so I think Colby Jones would be a great change of pace guy coming off the bench, and this would overall be an excellent pick for them. And now with the 20th overall pick, we have the Brooklyn Nets selecting Terquavion Smith, and the reason I have them picking him is because they already have all the role players they could possibly need. Literally 1 through 12 are all players that are very usable due to the trades. They have tons and tons of role players, and in this draft, you're really trying to swing for the fences and hope you can get a star, because you don't don't want to add another role player to a team full of role players that are already veteran and proven. So you want to swing for the fences, and that's exactly what Trailblazers Smith is going to give you. He has legit star potential on that offensive end. He can light it up. He had an unbelievable start to the year. Now, yes, he slowed down a little bit after his injury, but that offensive skill set is still there. And if he hits in that potential and he develops how he was projected to develop, he could legitimately be a star level player in the league one day and could be one of the steals of the class if he does end up developing. And I just think overall Brooklyn is not really looking to add another role player, so they're one of the teams that are in the position that are able to take a risk like this. And at the 21st overall pick, we have the Brooklyn Nets once again, and this time I have them picking Trayce Jackson-Davis. And the reason I have them doing this is because, like I said, they did just take a huge risk, not even a huge risk, but it's a pretty big risk in selecting Trailblazers Smith, but now Trayce Jackson-Davis is one of the safer players in the entire class, and he's just one of those guys that's going to be extremely solid. He's a solid defender, has good size, he can score from everywhere that's not a three. He doesn't shoot threes at all, but maybe he can develop that, and I just think overall he would be a great power forward for this team going forward, and any team would love to have him. And I think with Ben Simmons kind of probably going to be the next guy out, or the odd man out of this team, he would be able to replace what Ben Simmons provides very, very well. And now 22nd overall, we have the Miami Heat selecting Daron Holmes. Daron Holmes, in my opinion, is one of the more interesting players, and I really do like him. I think he's going to be extremely solid. I think he really fits Miami's system and culture, and that is extremely valuable in Eric Spoelstra's system, and he just needs to inject a lot of excitement into this team where they really do lack that, because I mean, Kevin Love just is not it as their power forward. It kind of seems like they're getting stale together, like it's just not working. It's like, I don't know, something just off about this Miami team, and I think Daron Holmes could really provide a spark for them, and would overall be a great defender, has offensive upside, and just like I said, really fits what Miami is looking for, and I think would be a great pick with the 22nd overall pick. And now with the 23rd overall pick, I have the Portland Trailblazers selecting Maxwell Lewis Jr. Now, I know what you're probably wondering is like, don't they already have Shadion Sharp, and you had them drafting Taylor Hendricks earlier? But this is kind of going off assuming they play Hendricks at the power forward position, and I would have Maxwell Lewis Jr. being the backup small forward behind Shadion Sharp going into next year, or maybe even starting depending on how good he is coming in. But Maxwell Lewis Jr. had one of the funnest starts of any player in the NBA class. I had him as a top 10 prospect for a while until the second half of the season, and although I have dropped him quite a bit since then, he does still have all the tools to be an extremely good player on offense. I think he's a 3-level scorer. He's going to be very hard to guard and very fun to watch, and I think getting him at 23rd is a great selection for value. Like, I just think he'd be at least an excellent backup for Shadion Sharp going forward, and I potentially maybe even a starting level player, and I wouldn't be surprised if one day he even maybe becomes an all-star level player. That's how much I believe in his offensive upside. And now 24th overall, I have the Sacramento Kings selecting Purdue's Zach Edey. Now, not a lot of people are as high on Zach Edey as me, but in my opinion, he is the second best center in this entire class behind Victor Wembanyama, and he would just give them an extremely good, at least backup level center, and if they ever want to play big and move Sabonis to the power forward, then they could have a great lineup of big ball where they'd have Zach Edey and Domantas Sabonis starting together, and I just think Zach Edey would be a great addition to this Sacramento Kings team. Give them a lot of size, give them rim protection, give them defense, and I just think a lot of teams would love to have a guy like Edey on it, and the Kings would only get better. And with the 24th overall pick, you can't ask for much better value than the second best center in this class, in my opinion. And then the 25th overall pick, we have the Memphis Grizzlies selecting Bryce Sensabaugh. Now, I do like Bryce Sensabaugh. I think he fits with the Grizzlies here very well, how they play. He's a great culture fit. I just think overall the Grizzlies would love to have him, and he can also score. He's a very solid shooter, and I just think Memphis would love to have a guy like Bryce Sensabaugh on the roster. And now 26th overall, we have the Indiana Pacers selecting Jalen Hood-Schifino. Now, Jalen Hood-Schifino is an extremely underrated prospect in my opinion. He can score from everywhere. He's a very good offensive player, and is just an all-around bucket, and I think him and Tyrese Halliburton would fit very, very well together in the Indiana Pacers backcourt going forward, and would just be another great addition to this young core that they already have going, and they have been one of the better drafting teams, so I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to pull something like this off. And now 27th overall, we have the Charlotte Hornets once again selecting, this time, Jet Howard. Now, Jet Howard, although not really great at anything, is very solid at just about everything. He's a very solid floor spacer. He can be a two-way potential type guy. And I just think overall, he is an extremely solid guy. And the fact that they already added Nick Smith Jr., I think it's better that they take a safer pick. And I think Jet Howard will be a good role player for the foreseeable future. And now 28th overall, we have Utah picking once again, and this time I have them picking Noah Clowney. And with them already picking pretty much two safe picks in guys like Cason Wallace and Chris Murray, I said why not have them swing for the fences a little bit and select Alabama's Noah Clowney, as he is very kind of Dayron Holmes-esque, very lengthy, has good tools, athleticism, he has potential to develop into something one day. And although I don't think he's going to be great off the bat, I think he has potential to be an extremely solid, high energy role player for any team that he is on eventually as he develops. So I think with the 28th overall pick, the Utah Jazz would more than willingly take a risk after those other two safer picks. And now coming down the home stretch at number 29, we have the Indiana Pacers selecting Leonard Miller. Now, Leonard Miller, in my opinion, is just an extremely good two-way level player. He showed that he can play extremely solid at the G League level, and I just think he is going to take a little bit longer to develop his offense, but I do think Leonard Miller will be a great addition to anyone's roster. I like Leonard Miller. I think he's going to be solid and maybe even above average role player one day, and would be a great value for the 29th overall pick. And for the final pick of the first round, we have the Los Angeles Clippers selecting Bilal Coulibaly. Now, I know I butchered his name. He plays in France, and in my opinion, one of the most underrated prospects in the entire NBA. I think he would be a great small forward for the Clippers. I think he could come in day one, be a very good two-way player for them. High energy, very young, very high potential. I just think 30th overall pick, a guy like Bilal is Bilal, that's how I'm going to say his name, is just too good to pass up at this point. But unfortunately, guys, that's going to be it for this video. So comment below, do agree with me. Do you think that your favorite team would have a good draft in this situation? What have you done different? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like the point, hit the like button and subscribe button. It means the absolute word to me, and I hope you have a blessed day, because I had a blessed day. So you need to have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah.